Hello everyone. In this lecture, we will be discussing about the overview of dyslexia. The major takeaways from this lecture are reading disability versus dyslexia, dyslexia, types of dyslexia, symptoms of dyslexia, strategies to improve reading ability. How dyslexia is different from other reading difficulties. Dyslexia has a more specialized definition. Dyslexia is defined as a neurodevelopmental condition that affects an individual's ability to read accurately and fluently. It is primarily characterized by difficulties with phonological processing and reading fluency. It can therefore be understood as a type of reading difficulty, whereas not all reading difficulties can be classified as dyslexia. In addition, dyslexia is generally considered to be a developmental reading disorder. That is a type of reading difficulty that is not due to other causes such as lack of educational opportunities or brain injury. Reading difficulties refer to difficulties experienced by an individual in comprehending and decoding written texts. These difficulties can be caused by a range of factors including learning disabilities such as dyslexia, poor reading instruction, lack of exposure to books, and other underlying conditions such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or visual impairment. Reading difficulties can manifest in various ways, including slow or inaccurate reading difficulties, difficulties with reading comprehension, problem with decoding, unfamiliar words, or low reading fluency. What do the reading difficulties associated with dyslexia look like? Dyslexia is a complex condition that affects individuals in different ways. There are studies that identify 4 main types of dyslexia, which reflect the specific ways in which an individual's ability to read is impacted. For example, some individuals with dyslexia may struggle with phonemic awareness, making it difficult for them to decode new words. These individuals may be diagnosed with phonological dyslexia. On the other hand, some individuals may struggle with recognizing familiar words, even though they can decode new words. These individuals may be diagnosed with surface dyslexia. Let us now discuss what is dyslexia. According to the British Dyslexia Association, dyslexia is a learning difficulty that primarily affects the skills involved in accurate and fluent word reading and spelling. Characteristic features of dyslexia are difficulties in phonological awareness, verbal memory, and verbal processing speed. Dyslexia occurs across the range of intellectual disabilities. This definition was given by Rose in 2009. Dyslexia is an information processing condition that impacts on how people remember and process words and images that they see and hear. Dyslexia may affect the speed and success with which a child picks up literacy skills. It ranges in severity and impact different people in different ways. It is important to note that dyslexia does not affect reading, although this is a key aspect of learning differences. It also impacts on organization, memory, and coordination, among other key life skills. Dyslexia symptoms may vary from child to child, and no two students will be struggling in the same way. The most common early symptoms are not associating letters with sounds, having difficulty and with phonemic awareness, rhymes, or blending sounds in words. TAP, T-A-P. Other signs for children in second grade and older are reversing letters such as B and D, memorizing text rather than reading it, guessing at words within context while reading, house versus home, river versus creek, and confusing words that sound or look similar such as on and no or top and pot. Parents and teachers should also pay attention to a lack of interest in reading, resistance to attending school, or refusal to do homework. Having other family members who had a difficult time learning how to read may also be worth noting, as dyslexia trends to run in families. The four main types of dyslexia are phonological dyslexia, difficulty with decoding new words, often due to difficulty with phonemic awareness. Surface dyslexia, difficulty recognizing familiar words or memorizing new words, often due to difficulty with visual processing or poor short-term memory recall. Rapid naming dyslexia. This is characterized by a difficulty in retrieving known information like naming colors, letters, or numbers. Double deficit dyslexia is when children present difficulties in two different areas such as phonological areas and rapid naming, for instance. Dyslexia symptoms. Signs and symptoms of dyslexia are commonly picked up when a child begins school and focus on reading and writing skills. Every person with dyslexia is unique, but there are shared symptoms in children aged between 5 and 12. The dyslexia symptoms include difficulties with letter names and sounds, problems with spelling, switching the order of letters and figures, slow reading speed, slow writing speed, handwriting difficulties, experiencing words moving around or blurring while reading, struggles with writing things down. Teenagers and adults may display poor organizational skills, difficulties with planning and writing reports, problems with revision skills, poor spelling, difficulty meeting deadlines, and general avoidance of written word. A student with adequate language comprehension but inadequate decoding may be diagnosed with dyslexia. This student's inadequate reading comprehension is unexpected in relation to their adequate oral language comprehension, which may be at or even well above grade level. The cause of poor reading comprehension is most likely the student's slow and often inaccurate recognition of words, which makes it difficult to pay attention to meaning. Explicit and systematic instruction in the reliable reading and spelling patterns of written language should improve reading comprehension to at least the level of listening comprehension. The routes to identification. We can identify a child with dyslexia with the help of checklist, a simple list of questions that gives indicators of dyslexia, screening tests, commercially available paper-based or it may be online, that can be administered by a non-specialist, although the tester should be trained and confident to interpret the results appropriately. Qualified specialist teacher, assessor of or diagnostic assessment. The assessor should have a qualification for diagnosing dyslexia. A battery of tests is conducted to assess intellectual capacity, cognitive development, and levels of literacy attainment. A profile of strength and weakness is produced in a report with recommendations. Educational psychologist assessment. The psychologist should be registered professional. They select appropriate tests, including closed tests which are only available to psychologists, to diagnose any underlying difficulties, and they produce a report with the conclusion and recommendations. Common difficulties accompanying dyslexia. Students with dyslexia may also experience difficulties with attention, organization, and executive function. Example, beginning and completing homeworks or assignments, maintaining focus on tasks, keeping track of supplies and materials, left-right confusion, concepts related to time and space, maths, handwriting, memorizing math facts and reading understanding word problems, handwriting, learning foreign languages or English as a second language, and also in social skills like making or keeping friends. Strategies for helping students with dyslexia. Applying a range of reading strategy is essential to ensure that students get the help they need and achieve their full potential in classroom and beyond. Find decodable books. Reading materials that is full of familiar, single and closed syllable words will make decoding easier. It's also helpful for texts to include frequently used sight words and a few harder words. These kind of books apply just the right amount of load to the dyslexic brain. The second one is set them up for success. Students struggling with reading can easily become discouraged if the book is too difficult or too easy. Readers who reject baby books may feel discouraged, while those who struggle through advanced books will become frustrated. Parents and teachers can help by offering a selection of books that help students build fluency and create the ideal condition for enhancing reading skills. We may start with short decodable books and move on to decodable chapter books to give them a sense of accomplishment that they are learning. If these books do not fit into classroom lessons, offer them as free reading that students earn rewards for it. Give struggling students a break. For dyslexic students, schoolwork and classroom activities can be exhausting. Letting students take frequent break during reading can be an effective coping strategy. Always we should keep in mind that children with dyslexia need more downtime to recharge their batteries. Reading stories and rereading. Encourage children to read their favorite stories with a loved one. Strategies that revolve around reading at home help students experience feelings of literacy success in a welcoming and low-risk environment. Rereading familiar text will also build speed, accuracy, and confidence, which adds up to the perfect recipe for fluency. We have to make reading fun for them. When a child is struggling to read, we might be inclined to push him or her to work more harder. This is done in the hopes that more practice will improve reading skills. However, ineffective practice can actually impede progress, especially if the child or the parents end up in tears. Child-centered strategies ensure students are more engaged in their learning because practice is fun and rewarding. Children love a special time with their parents or an exciting classroom story hour with the reading materials. Spend time reading to them. If the student has younger siblings, encourage them to take on the responsibility of reading to the little ones. What are the 3 most effective ways to help students with dyslexia? Teachers can support students with dyslexia by creating a collaborative classroom culture, using multisensory activities, presenting new language in manageable chunks. Let us conclude. Dyslexia is a lifelong disorder that often occurs in families and affects an individual's ability to acquire skills related to reading, specifically automatic word identification. If not addressed, it is significantly affecting self-esteem, achievement, and confidence. The good news is that with appropriate intervention, students with dyslexia can often compensate well and become effective readers, although perhaps somewhat slower than average. Thank you.